Welcome to Kids Academy.
Hi, it's Coach Rob for Kids Academy, and welcome to this video. Today we'll be looking at the most famous game of chess ever played. This game was played almost 150 years ago by the great Paul Morphy. Paul Morphy was an American chess player. He grew up in New Orleans in Louisiana, and by the time he was a young adult, he was the best player in the country. One day he got invited to go to Europe and play all the best European players, and he ended up in Paris, in France, and he was watching an opera. He got challenged to a game at the Opera House, so this wasn't an official tournament game, it was a friendly game. Paul Morphy had white, and there was a team of two players, Duke Carl and Count Histoire, who had the black pieces. They would sort of share their ideas and talk about their moves. And this became the most famous game of chess ever played. Years and years later, people still study this game because it is a great example of active attacking chess. You'll notice Paul Morphy with white, every move he makes either develops a piece or creates a threat. He really makes every single move count, and we'll see kind of how all the ideas that we spoke about in previous chapters and previous videos all come together in this game. So the game started. E4, E5, Knight F3, attacking the pawn. Black's main move is Knight C6 to defend the pawn, putting a knight on its favorite square and controlling the center. In the game, Black played what's called Philidor's defense, pawn D6, D4, and Black played bishop G4. Okay, so this bishop is pinning the knight. This knight should not move because if it does, the bishop will be aiming at the queen behind it. Paul Morphy found a very creative way of breaking the pin. He first captured on E5, and Black does not want to capture right away because if that were to happen, White can trade queens, the pin is broken, and the knight can capture E5 for free. White's up a pawn. This is under attack. F7 is under attack, threatening a fork. Black's already in big trouble. So after pawn takes pawn, Black played bishop takes knight. And here, White has an interesting decision. Should Paul capture this bishop with the queen or the pawn? I think both moves are okay, but taking with the queen definitely makes a lot of sense. It develops a piece. It keeps White's pawns intact, so these three pawns are still, they're unbroken. If White were to castle kingside, this would be a nice shelter for the king. But most importantly, this develops a piece. Black is now able to capture the pawn on E5, and we have a material even game. Both sides have captured 4 points. Okay, White's turn. Bishop C4. If you remember the Scholar's Mate video, White is now threatening checkmate on F7 with the bishop and queen. Black does not want that to happen, so Knight F6 blocks the queen from getting to F7. And now Paul Morphy comes up with a very nice move. And normally we say don't move the same piece a second time, but if you have a really good reason to, then it's okay. And here White moves the queen a second time to play queen B3. The idea is we're creating this battery, this double firepower along the diagonal to attack F7. The queen is also aiming at B7, so White is preparing to win material. Black plays queen E7, guarding the pawn. And here, Paul Morphy makes a very interesting choice. I think most chess players would say, oh, here's a free pawn. Let's capture it. Let's threaten the rook. But instead of just winning a pawn, which, by the way, would not win the rook because Black has the move queen b4 check, forcing a queen trade. But White would be winning a pawn. But instead of winning a pawn, Paul Morphy says, I'm not going to use my turn to capture this pawn. Instead, I want to use my turns, I want to use my time to get all of my pieces out as quickly as possible. So instead of moving this queen to a square where she won't be particularly active, kind of misplaced over here in the corner, he decides to just keep developing. Knight C3. Pawn C6 makes a lot of sense, not a great move though, but black is guarding this pawn on f7, this pawn on b7. The queen is guarding the pawns. Bishop g5. White creates a pin of his own. This bishop pins the knight. This knight is stuck, for if it were to move, the bishop would capture the queen. b5. Okay, things start to get interesting. But before we talk about white's next move, let's just take a moment to assess this position. White has 4 pieces developed. Black only has 2. And one of those 2 pieces can't move. This knight is pinned. This bishop is blocked in. This rook is blocked in. Black is far away from castling. Black is simply way behind in development. Since this knight can't move, it's almost like a 4 versus queen fight. Not very good odds for black. This is what happens when you do so many pawn moves and you block in your pieces. You simply fall behind in development and put yourself in a very uncomfortable position. Now, Paul Morphy loved to attack, and he didn't want to retreat with bishop e2, bishop d3. He saw a way to sacrifice a small amount of material, and a sacrifice, remember, is when you give away something, you give away points to get something else in return, usually an attack on the king. So in this example, he sacrificed the knight to capture 2 pawns. So white is down 1 point, but in return for this, there is a big attack on the king. And Paul Morphy thinks that because the king is not safe and black is behind in development, he can take advantage of this and invest the material to launch an attack. Black's in check. If the king runs, I'm worried about a move like castling queenside. This rook will swoop over, put you in check. The king will not find any safety. The queen should not block. That would be a huge material loss for black. This knight should not block. Remember, it's pinned. The queen will get captured. So black's best move to get out of check is knight on b to d7. Okay, white's turn. White's very restricted. This knight is pinned. This knight is pinned. These pieces are almost invisible. They're not doing anything at all. But white still needs to bring in some more pieces. And Paul Morphy decides to castle. Should he castle kingside or queenside? Well, the answer is queenside, and it's because if you castle kingside, your king is nice and safe, but your rook isn't particularly useful. It's not active. But if you castle queenside, right away, your rook is putting pressure along this d file, the only open file in the game, and this is a serious threat for black. Black reinforces the knight, and now there's 1 piece left, this rook on h1. How do we develop it? How do we get it into the game? Most chess players recommend, a lot of my students recommend h4, rook h3, rook over. That'll take 3 moves to create a battery. My first idea was rook d2, rook d1, and create a battery. That's 1 move faster. But Paul Morphy's idea was even faster than mine. He just captured. He captured the knight. Remember, this knight is still pinned. This queen doesn't want to capture because of the bishop, so black captures back. This rook is now absolutely pinned, and white is able to develop the final rook. So all of white's pieces are playing. Meanwhile, black is completely tied down. This rook is pinned, this knight is pinned, and these pieces haven't done anything. Black plays the move queen e6, which makes a lot of sense. It's very logical. Number 1, if your king is being attacked, try to trade away your opponent's best attackers, in this case the queen. And number 2, if you're ahead in material, try to trade down. Do fair trades, and then use your, not only will your king be safer, but your extra pawn, your extra exchange possibly, will be enough to help win the game. But Paul Morphy already saw checkmate. He played bishop takes rook check, the knight takes, and the second reason this game is so famous, not only is a great example of active attacking chess where we make every single move count, but it ends in a pretty cool checkmate. In this position, it's checkmate in 2 for white. White moves, black responds, and on white's second move, it is checkmate. Can you find it? One hint would be, if we could get this rook to d8, it would be checkmate. The bishop would be supporting the rook would be attacking the king, that would be mate. The problem is this knight is in the way. So Paul Morphy came up with a Very creative move, queen b8 check. There is only one move to save the black king. He cannot run, he cannot protect, he must capture with the knight. We lured the knight away, we deflected the knight away, and now rook d8, mate. The bishop protects the rook attacks the king, checkmate. This is called the Opera House game, and it's the most famous game of chess ever played. It's a great example of making every single move count. Remember, you want to control the middle, develop your pieces, and castle. Don't move the same piece twice unless you have a really good reason to. Thanks for watching. I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.
Subscribe to our channel to stay updated on new videos. Find links to our apps in the comments below.